In a Super Bowl interview, Donald Trump says that Nancy Pelosi is going to fall and the radical left is going to take over. And I completely agree, and I can show you exactly why. First, there's the really obvious reason. Pelosi's old. She's got to retire soon. And many of these establishment Democrats are really old and have to retire soon. Now, I know Bernie Sanders is old as well, but Ocasio-Cortez is very young. Many of these progressives who believe insane things for insane reasons and want insane stuff are also very young. And that means as the older generation leaves and retires and, yes, passes on, the younger, more progressive activists are slowly taking over. Now, Donald Trump made this prediction. He's correct. He is. I want you to take a look at this story. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez asks why Americans will fund Space Force but won't back healthcare for all. I love it. The reason why I highlight this is the #1 post on Reddit right now. And I do think there's some dirty dealing going on behind the scenes at these social media companies, because many of the political subreddits are actually just pro-establishment or progressive Democrat subreddits. And there's no real conversation about what's actually happening. Take a look at this story. I mean, most of you can already understand exactly why it's stupid. But she makes a point that riles up stupid people. She tweets, "The folks writing checks for a new Space Force are the same ones asking, how are you going to pay for public college or healthcare? This is the richest country in the world. Our problem isn't a lack of money. It's a lack of good priorities. And that is something we can change." What? Do you know how much we're going to put into the Space Force? My understanding is that it's like in the tens of millions. And it's not even as much as like Trump wanted. Do you know how much Medicare for all would cost? It's in the trillions. Trillions. We're not talking jumping from million to billion. We're talking about jumping millions to trillions. Do you have any concept of like economics? This is a really funny thing about AOC. She's like, they make fun of me for having an economics degree. It's like, dude, they're not making fun of you because you have the degree. It's the combination of you having the degree and not understanding how economics actually works. But here's what happens. She tweets out this stupid insanity. And sure enough, everybody eats it up saying, yeah, why are we building a Space Force when we could pay for people's cancer treatments? Let me tell you something. It is substantially, and I'm talking like orders of magnitude cheaper, and it's very vital to the technology, communications, for instance, our satellites, that we have a Space Force, which was proposed long before Trump, that actually already exists to a certain degree, something that will protect our space assets. Hey, how about GPS, which most of you use every single day? So I know that what they're allocating towards the Space Force is basically taking existing funding that was already going to these other departments and putting it all under one roof. The general idea is we're already spending the money. Communication is bad. We're going to create a Space Force, allocate funds from here to there. We're not talking about new taxes or new spending. The money would already be spent here. We're making it easier for everyone to communicate and protect our assets in space. You know what, man? I feel a little bit hopeless from all of this, okay? Because while you can rag on conservatives for, not always being correct, and you can criticize their bad opinions, when I look to what's dominating Reddit, it is just complete ignorance from people like Ocasio-Cortez who don't understand how any of this works. They don't think at all. They don't Google search. Case in point, when the Space Force posted the new name tags, the nameplates, okay, existing military uniforms that said Space Force, it was camo. It was camouflage. It was like jungle and, terrestrial camouflage. And all of a sudden, we got the big viral trend of, I can't believe they're doing tree camouflage for the Space Force. Shouldn't it look like this? And what did they post? Pictures of like pajamas that have galaxies on them and stuff. And it's like, oh, dude, first of all, please, I need you to Google search what the Space Force is going to do. You see, they're going to operate on Earth. We're not going to have soldiers drifting around in space wearing black because they're going to be without a spaceship. This is the craziest thing to me. When that whole thing happened, I'm like, in what sci-fi reality have we ever seen entire armies with no spaceships? Okay, you watch Star Trek, big spaceships. You watch Star Wars, little spaceships, and big ones too. But when have we seen people just drifting around in the vacuum of space? That's what we get. These people like AOC, you take the people who are so dumb, they think that U.S. soldiers will literally be blasted off into outer space to drift around wearing space camouflage to fight other countries' people who are blasted off into outer space. None of this makes sense. They didn't think 2 steps. They didn't Google search anything. And the funnier joke is like, do you think that the Air Force camo is like blue with white puffs on it? No, they wear the same camouflage and they change it depending on specific terrain where they operate. Guess what? It's the existing Army uniform. The Space Force was just created. And I don't want to relitigate all this. I just want to tell you very simply, okay? Medicare for all costs trillions of dollars a year. They're estimating, what is it, like $30 trillion over the next 10 years, some ridiculous amount. But here's what we get. If you go to reddit.com/all, the number 1 post, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez asks why Americans will fund Space Force but won't back healthcare for all. Well, why don't we figure out what people are saying? Now, I will say, fortunately, thankfully, there are some comments in here that are like, guys, what is wrong with you? Chill out. But before I read those comments and show you how insane everyone is, I need to make the bigger and more important point. It used to be that r/the Donald was always on the front of all, r/all. People claimed it was Russian bots or whatever. I'm not going to play that argument. I'm just going to say Reddit panicked. They talked about how they didn't like it, and they started fiddling with the algorithm to prevent the Donald from reaching the front page of all. Okay, so let me stop. Reddit is a very, very prominent, link aggregation site. People go there, you post a link, people upvote or downvote. r/all is the entirety of the website. Meaning whatever subreddit could be, there could be one about ice cream, and it just, for some reason, people really like it. And it's like r/ice cream. Right now, if you go to r/politics, you actually just get progressive activism. There's no real discussion over policy. It's just literally orange man bad over and over. And if you try and say anything to the contrary in like a post, it typically just gets obliterated. So now you have the more conservative sites, subreddits, not gaining any traction, and even the moderate ones. And what do you see all the time on all? You see centrists being mocked. You see political humor in politics where they literally just rag on Trump, and like things like F the alt-right. It's literally just inundated with progressive politics. Now, you might say, Tim, that's just because most people don't like Trump. Hey, that's fair. That's what moderators are for on the politics subreddit. You would think politics, which is not supposed to be partisan, would have moderation to make sure there could be a real healthy debate. Not how it works, because activists go in and shut everything down. Let me show you the comments. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, why will Americans fund the Space Force but won't back healthcare for all? Here we go. They say, the first comment, because Fox News tells their followers that only communists give government-funded healthcare and they're dumb enough to believe it. There is so much wrong with that top comment. Okay, that means when people are commenting, they're upvoting this the most. That's what they think. The people in the subreddit apparently don't watch Fox News, or they assume that literally everyone in this country does, which they don't. Now, Fox News is the highest rated cable channel. There are many news outlets that are not Fox News. And guess what? You got Pete Buttigieg, you got Klobuchar, you got Biden. None of them want Medicare for all either. This is hyperbolic nonsense, but it's being pushed up to number 1 on one of the most prominent social media networks in the world. The next person says the best part is the people watching Fox News that rabble on about having to pay for other people's health care are either on ACA or Medicaid. Yes, you read that right. That's just not true either, because there are people of all generations saying no to this. Biden's voters are like Gen Xers. They're in their 40s, people entering their 50s. Guess what? Those people are not watching Fox News. They're Biden supporters, and they also don't want these things. This is the weird world of how Reddit quarantined the Donald so that they can't appear anywhere else for complete BS reasons. The biggest site for Donald Trump support is basically blocked. Now, look, I say it all the time. I don't care if you like or don't like the president. I think it's messed up that you basically have all of these other subreddits completely dominated by progressive activists, and the one place for Trump supporters is quarantined so it can't even appear. You then go to Reddit and you get this insanity. Why would Reddit want to promote this pure ignorance? I'm not saying Trump's right. I'm not saying his supporters are right. I'm saying these people are dumb. They're wrong. And they're prejudiced. They assume everyone who disagrees with them must be an old person watching Fox News. That's not true. People, there are moderate young people who are in their 30s who also think AOC is stupid. Listen, I'm going to show you some more of these comments. This one says, I wasn't given a choice. We'll jump over. That's fine. Space Force sounds so cool. It's like pow pow, way cooler than affordably treating a taxpayer's colon cancer. Pow pow. Not one of them have asked any questions about what's really going on. Not one of them. Not one of them has done a single Google search to figure out what's really going on. But you eventually do find some people. Here's one. They say to protect the profits of both the military industrial complex and the healthcare industry. Well, I'm not completely in disagreement with that. But that's a whole other issue. Here we go. Finally, we make it to this point. This comment says, in case anyone was actually interested in why the Space Force even exists, it was proposed long before President Dip S. The responsibility of protecting our satellites was spread across several branches of the military, and communication between them wasn't sufficient. On top of that, there were budget disputes, tons of actual information out there besides this hyper-sensationalist nonsense. Thank you, good sir. At least you can find this. It's not at the top, but at least you can still find some sanity. This next person says, sure, but the same could be said of healthcare. It was proposed long before the current administration. The responsibility for it spans governmental agencies and the private sector. As a result, communication and budget issues exist. Okay, hold on. You still can't compare $2 trillion to 50 or 70 million. Sorry. It's just an exponential growth in how much you have to spend. And not only that, moving the Space Force under one administration streamlines communication and expenses. Launching Medicare for All terminates 2 million jobs. And Warren and Bernie have both been like, yup, maybe we need a transitional fund to protect them. So now you're talking about more taxes. The costs go up. Not only will the costs go up, but then you end up with people who aren't working and there's not going to be taxes. They're also talking about a wealth tax to pay for it, but you can only tax the wealthy one time on a wealth tax. Eventually there's no more billionaires and there's no one left to tax. It's just like watching people. It's just watching stupid people say stupid things. I don't know how else to describe it. Here's the thing. When you're playing a strategy game, okay, when you're trying to strategize about your mission, you can't just say, hey, this does this. You have to think about all of the steps involved and where you end up. Donald Trump is right. Let's go back to the first story. Donald Trump is right. The far left is going to take over, and it's not just because Pelosi and others are retiring or aging out. It's because AOC can say something that almost makes sense, but really doesn't. She says, Trump just did a Space Force? Why are we spending money in space? Now, I know she didn't say that. I'm being hyperbolic. But when Elon Musk launched a car into outer space, a Tesla, a bunch of progressives started tweeting about how Elon Musk was wasting money. Why are these billionaires wasting all this money when they could be doing healthcare? Did you know that the space race helped us invent a ton of products? Did you know that the money spent on the space race is actually spent on Earth, and that those expenses generate tax revenue, and the new technologies developed actually can improve healthcare? And it also inspires the world and the nation. It makes people hopeful, and it creates a morale boost. The world isn't so simple to where you can just say, everybody gets healthcare. We can't cure every disease. There will never be a cure for everyone. This is what they don't seem to understand. If today, coronavirus, hey, the best example. There is no cure for the coronavirus. We don't know how to treat it. There are some tests going on right now about certain medications, the antivirals that may help. But hold on. Well, how come we can't cure it? Why can't we just spend the money and give everyone free health care and then they will be not sick? Oh, I'm sorry. There's no cure for it. Therein lies the big problem. How much time and energy will be spent to actually try and provide health care to those who contract something that can't be cured? There will always be things we can't cure unless we become immortal gods. Okay? Now, I think, a fair argument is that basic level care, like if you break your arm, we can patch you up. We could provide something like that on a national level and pay for it. What we can't do is just constantly talk about how everyone gets guaranteed health care. Because here's how it really works. Let's say we have, penicillin. Well, not penicillin anymore. We're now using a bunch of different antibiotics because antibiotic resistance. But I don't even know which current, antibiotic people use. But we've constantly had to update it and change it and create these cures. It's a very difficult process and it costs a lot of money because people have to do the labor. Then we can't just give it out to everybody because there's a finite supply. So let's say today there is no cure for a specific disease. And they say, I'm sorry, there is no health care for you. Your disease has no treatment, not even for the symptoms. Bye-bye. A week later, they finally discover the cure for a rare genetic disease, and it costs $10 million to do. Are they going to give that to everyone? No, they're not. It's literally impossible. And so this idea that you can actually have guaranteed healthcare to cover all ailments just literally does not make sense. But they're not having a real argument. AOC is conflating things that don't make sense, but people eat it up. There are similar criticisms to Donald Trump. They say that he scapegoats problems. Fine. But there's a big difference between claiming, immigration and trade is causing problems in the economy, and then Trump actually comes out and the economy improves. Maybe Trump is too hyper-focused on one small portion of the problem, and that was the big criticism he got, that he was a populist telling the people what they wanted to hear and promising them solutions. Well, the economy is better than ever, right? There's a big difference between what AOC is doing right now, conflating things that just have absolutely nothing to do with each other. The Space Force and Medicare for All are on other sides of the room. There's no relation to a $40 million, $50 million expenditure and $2 trillion per year and terminating 2 million jobs. She has no real solutions other than she's like, I'll just say it, she's not that bright. And she's seeing things and going, hey, why are we going to outer space instead of healthcare? And it's like, we were already in outer space. The healthcare thing would terminate 2 million jobs and radically alter the economy, probably of the world, and could potentially cause a world economic collapse, at least for a temporary period. And so we're trying to figure out how to solve the problem. But you see the same thing with people like Greta Thunberg. They say, the world is dying. How dare you? We must get rid of fossil fuels tomorrow. And she actually said, not 2050, not 2030, not 2021. They don't think about what comes next. So they tell all these people, hey, fossil fuels cause climate change, right? And they go, yes. We should stop using them. Yes. We should stop using them immediately, right? Yes. Congratulations. Now people who rely on that are dead. So, basically, I want to do the segment because it's just so frustrating when every day I browse Reddit and I constantly see these half-formed, half-brained ideas that no one thinks through. And I'm not here to give a free pass to any conservative. You can be dumb and be on any part of the political spectrum. The real problem is this is the number one post on all. Something that literally makes no sense, that stupid people are rallying around. There's another comment, I think. Let me see if I can find it. Here, someone says, we already had a Space Force. It's simply being moved out of the Air Force to become a separate branch. No additional budget allocation. Here's what we need. Here's what I want to see. I don't care if you say, we can't have Trump supporters, fine, whatever. Okay, fine. We'll stop that argument. First of all, they shouldn't quarantine the Donald. Full stop. It was completely ridiculous why they did. For those that don't know, it basically means their posts don't appear on the site, and it's very difficult to actually get to the forum. What they do need, however, is legitimate moderation. But what do we get? r/politics, which is supposed to talk politics, is frequently full of activist websites like Truth Out and Common Dreams. Look at this. Common Dreams is not news. It is an activist website. Why is that the front of political discussions? Partisan actors not moderating this platform, and you end up with nothing but Slate and Newsweek and Common Dreams. You're not getting real information, and it's reaching number one of all. So Trump is right. The far left is taking over because social media companies are panicking because allies in ideologues in media smear and defame people, which cause these companies to then purge anyone who dare have a right wing or even moderate opinion. And then the moderators come in and prop up their ideological allies and post activist content to what's supposed to be a neutral political forum. But it's not. You then get the number one post on all to be complete BS. Stick around. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel, and I'll see you all then.